Welcome back to an expanded podcast episode from our last episode, the discussion we were having on Project 2025. Last night was probably one of the hardest nights I've had in a while. It was very hard to get any restful sleep. The visions that I was seeing were coming so intensely that I just really couldn't get into a nice deep sleep. And it has a lot to do with what just really happened yesterday with the current affairs of the United States and how everything is currently working. And I thought it would be fun just to start off by pulling a couple cards to see where we're at. We've got the Seven of Cups upright. And so this is actually going to play a lot into what we have going on today because there is a lot of loss of control that's happening. And when we have that Seven of Cups, it's very chaotic. Um, Escapism, unfulfilled promises, um, and being presented with a lot of choices to move forward. We have the justice in reverse, which again is playing fully into what we're going through right now and what we're going to be talking about. Um, the amount of injustice that's going on. And then we have the Four of Pentacles in reverse, which is because this is all rooted in greed and materialism. So this is the type of energy that this is pulling for us today. Um, so let's jump into this podcast today. Today is an expanded podcast. Welcome back to And They Lied, a child's healing from abuse of being a biker's daughter. I welcome you today to this podcast. My name is Shannon. I am a high priestess of the goddess Hecate, and I teach spiritual individuality and how to navigate the world of spirituality within your own heritages. So today I want to come to you with what everything I'm seeing, and I figured today would be a great day to make this expanded podcast with the title of Are We Witnessing the Fall of the Rule of Law here in America? And it is it is something that it needs to be discussed because we have a lot of people that are rightfully so wanting to believe that this is going to be able to be stopped. This is going to, you know, somebody will be there to help. We'll get it fixed. It'll all work out. It'll work its way out, right? Um, so I want to jump into a little bit of history first and discuss how history has shown us that governments don't always collapse in just like a single moment, like boom, and it's all over. More often, they are eroded step by step until one day people wake up and they go, "Oh, I don't have any more rights." And they're all gone. And this is where we're at today because if you don't take a step back from everything that you're currently involved in and look at the world around you, which is the Seven of Cups, you're going to start to become one of those people that wake up when it's too late and you will have lost control. So, today we're going to talk about what's happening in real time here in the US and whether this country will survive the basic norms of things like rule of law and what's coming. And I would like to also state that this isn't about fear mongering. This is about being immersed in the reality that we have right now without having any rose-colored glasses on. This is about seeing patterns, recognizing that these are aligning with specific historical events, and then to begin to use your critical thinking and your intuition to understand what is next for you. Because, my friends, we are watching a script that has played out before. So let's talk about the blueprint of the power that they have right now. And I want to compare past regimes, historical context, and relevance to today. Sorry about that. So the first one I want to discuss is that the 58-day collapse of democracy in Germany. It started in 1933. The Mustache Man, he began to remove all key government officials one by one, systematically. Then he stripped the courts of the power and then criminalized anyone who was a descendant that descended from this absolute horrific person. And he did that all in under 2 months. The Reich Fire Decree used an emergency to justify total control. Essentially, what we would know today as martial law. And that actually did follow just shortly after he signed this into law. And that those that opposed him were labeled as enemies of the state, like Trump and his administration are doing, and mentally unstable, like RFK is doing. And then the threats to the national security, which you have Kristi Noem running around in cosplay uniform, acting like she is a top cop for immigration and national security. So how does that parallel today? Well, first of all, Trump's only in his 31st day. Today is the 31st day, believe it or not. And we have already seen serious government purges. Um, we've also seen our legal system being undermined and this push for unchecked executive power. And what do I mean by that? Well, look at his executive order last night. The executive order he wrote last night, basically, he reworded how we make law in this country. Even though the way that we make law in this country is essentially the way that he put in this executive order, as if we don't already do that. But what he has proposed is that his rule goes. There will be no questions of what he chose to do, how he chose to do it, and so forth. So the second one that lines with everything is the mental health excuse. And I know everybody has seen all of the crap that RFK Jr. and others have suggested, tracking or restricting those on psychiatric medicines, putting them into what he is calling rehab camps. Um, Again, this is historical tactics for mass internment. Wake up, people. We are heading there. And it's time to pull yourself out of your phone. I know that, it's so hard because you just want to escape all of what's going on, but you really can't. And so the next major thing that I see he's going to do is he is going to manufacture a crisis. Every authoritarian has a pivot and it needs to be an emergency. Oh my God, emergency, emergency. And it's just to justify a drastic action like internment. Um, and what kind of crisis could be used? I don't know. Civil unrest, a staged or manipulated attack like he has had. Maybe all the planes falling out of the sky. Maybe all the fires all over the place erupting out of no reason. So you really need to start to become aware of those things. So let's talk about what's already happened. What's already happened is he has started a government agency purge. Who's been removed? Everybody almost. If there was people that were there that were career officials in the government, he is already removing them. What agencies has he stripped of power? All of them. He gave it to this Doge thing, and nobody really knows what they're doing. This Doge efficiency, yada yada yada, and no, that is seriously just how it fits into the historical pattern of authoritarian control. So the courts are no longer a safety net for us. Let's be real. They gave him unchecked power in the Supreme Court under the guise of an act of the president. And today we are seeing, and you can see it everywhere with all of the lawsuits that have been filed, judges are being silenced, they're being pressured, they are essentially weighing, like they're supposed to, the outcome of these proceedings. And a majority of them are starting to see that what does it matter? If this goes to the Supreme Court, it's just going to get overturned. So why keep going? All the lawsuits against the government for their overreach are currently being dismissed. They are not making it to the next steps, guys. This is how it happens. When the legal system is neutralized, power becomes absolute. And if you look at all the direct plans that Trump announces, just yesterday, in his own words, we're going to take things further. What does that mean? This morning, he already started firing more Justice Department attorneys, career attorneys that have been there protecting the United States and their interests. And so I have to ask, what do we expect this next 30 days to look like? Well, let me go ahead and break that down for you. 1 to 2 weeks from now, based on history, political strategies, and current public statements, and these are from their mouths, Kash Patel, from Trump, from JD Vance, from RFK Jr., from Kristi Noem, Hagar, this border guy who they named Border Czar, some Russian word. Today we are actually rewriting history because now all of a sudden Russia is our pal, our buddy, our great ally. So you really start to see how with this we will start moving forward. So 1 to 2 weeks from today, okay, we are February 19th. 1 to 2 weeks from today, there's going to be more agencies being purged down to nothing. There's going to be further legal justification for expanding his executive powers. And he is going to target censorship and begin a hard campaign on media suppression. And you can already see that with him getting rid of the AP because they don't want to call the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. So next we have 3 to 6 weeks from today. I believe that the first round of arrests and criminalization of our protesters and the people that are trying to make enough noise that it gets everybody's attention, I think that those are going to be starting. I think the lawsuits will begin being dismissed at just blink of an eye rate. Just as fast as they can put them in, they're going to dismiss them. The amount of new executive orders expanding law enforcement power are going to become hard and heavy and fast and furious. So what does 6+ weeks from today look like? This is where the large-scale detainments will begin under the new emergency pretenses and the use of the mental health clarifications to justify internments. And martial law becomes not just possible, but it becomes eventual. So, what does this mean for those of us that are on a spiritual path? And this is a direct message to those who practice different spiritual traditions, including goddess work, energy healing, ancestral magic, etc., hoodoo, santeria, voodoo, continuing along those lines. Throughout history, us spiritual practitioners, especially those outside of dominant religious structures like Catholicism, Christianity, Islam, um, and those dominant religions have often become the first ones targeted. In authoritarian regimes, this is their first go-to. And you might ask yourself, well, why? Why? What? Why? Because spiritual sovereignty is a direct threat to any system that thrives on control. Let me repeat that. Spiritual sovereignty is a direct threat to them. Okay? It stops their mode of control. So historically, they have always come from us first. They came for us first in the witch hunts. They weren't just about the superstition. It was about silencing women, silencing the healers, and those who held power outside of the state and the church. And if you don't believe that, check out today's bullshit when they put in their budget bill. Ladies, they hit it in the budget bill that if you have taken your husband's last name, you will no longer be allowed to vote if they pass this budget bill. We will become property of our husbands. So take that into account. This is happening now. Indigenous shaman, medicine women, and spiritual leaders have always been seen as threats to colonial and authoritarian powers. In Chile, currently, the government is doing that to the Machi people. Those that are practitioners of the old ways, the shaman ways, the medicine ways, they are being scooped up and charged with crimes against the country. So it is not just here. You have to really take it and look at the whole planet as a whole when you know, you're aligning yourself to see where this is heading. And so, again, they've always been seen as threats to anything that is colonial or authoritarian in nature. Then the next thing is that what they will do is the criminalization of alternative beliefs. We are already seeing Project 2025, the white Christian national agenda being laid down into the government, like as if it was the the foundation, which it's not. So these laws could be used to restrict things like our divination practices, our spiritual gatherings, healing work, and it'll be all under this smokescreen of it's for public safety or it's for the psychological well-being because they are going to try to label us as mentally unstable, mentally unfit, and so that that one plays into their narrative. And again, they would be labeling us, anybody that does energetic healing, ancestral wisdom, moon rituals, goddess worship, any of the craft elements, you're going to be known as mentally unfit or occultist. And this is a strategy that they've used throughout history. So I'm not just like coming up with this out of my ass. And this is that justice in reverse, that injustice, the intolerance, the biased, the dishonesty, right? And then they'll come after us in the feminine. They will begin to suppress feminine and earth-based spirituality. Any belief system that is not centers personal empowerment. I'm sorry, any belief system that centers personal empowerment, the divine feminine, sovereignty over one's soul is considered a threat to them. And so expect increase in censorship on these platforms, spiritual communities. They, we got word already that Zelle is going to stop taking payments through platforms and a lot of spiritual practitioners. You get paid that way. So they are going to try to demonetize your practice. And then you'll have the social pressure to conform. And that's where we really need to be awake and decide, which route we're going to take. And now is the time to root yourself deeper into your practices. Get more comforted. Get more used to doing them, all of them, as many as you can, memorizing them, because they're going to try to again take all this and strip it from us. Another thing you can do is form strong spiritual and community connections. This is why I have started the Mighty Network, making sure that I still have a small sliver and a landing zone for my spiritual community, the leaders that I am trying to help guide. We also need to protect sacred knowledge and teachings through oral traditions and hidden spaces. So again, going back, relearning your Psalms, relearning the Old Testament, because in all of that is where they hid our original craft work so that we could have it in the future. So I know you guys are probably like, okay, so what can we do? And I want to keep this discussion action orientated and constructive. So, what you can do is recognize the signs right now. If you're waiting for mass detainments, you're just waiting for it. Oh, I'll wait. When that happens, let me tell you, it's already happening. They've already taken people to Guantanamo Bay. They've already taken people back to countries where they originated. So there we are. We're already there. Historical regimes succeed because people assume that they have more time. We do not have more time. Time is now. It is important for you to stay informed, but not be paralyzed by the fear. This is why I decided to make today's podcast. I could have sat and just allowed this to be with me, to be inside my brain. But I have to get it out. I have to share it with you guys so you guys can be aware. And the goal is not to panic. It's to stay vigilant so that you don't get caught off guard. Make sure you're following independent journalists, legal experts, and human rights organizations. So if you're still on the Meta platforms, go follow AP News, go follow um, the NAACP, go follow the ASPCA. Wow. Okay. But you guys understand what I mean. The other human rights organizations that are out there. And one of the other things is to understand is that our community is power. Yes, we need to stay hidden, but we do not need to isolate. And that is what allows oppression to thrive, is when we isolate. Networks of resistance in history have always been grassroots and decentralized. This, what we're doing right now, this is it. This is how we start it. We become realistic and we don't sugarcoat. Okay. So let me just once again go over some of the quick little things that we have noticed that since yesterday they have done. And I want to keep you updated on these factors that are going to influence this acceleration of our timeline that we have. Because I've given you 1 to 6+ weeks. And these are the things you're going to want to look at to see, okay, when is this going to start really going? And after yesterday, I kind of built a different little timeline this morning, and it really does give you a better perspective. So, key updates to know. Right now, he is purging the government of agencies and personnel. As you see, we're trying having problems finding the nuclear employees that helped control and protect our nuclear systems, and some of them decided not even to bother to come back to work. Some did because they understand the importance, but it's still, we have to really watch out for that. We also have to start to watch out for when he starts to replace loyalists to ensure compliance for his extreme actions, his extreme executive actions. And we also have to keep an eye on how much he's gutting these federal agencies and weakening the bureaucracy obstacles uh, to do mass scale domestic operations. Right now, we're starting to see the courts become packed with compliant judges, or it's just being ignored entirely or kicked out. There's not a lot of legal pushback right now for us. The DOJ and the FBI are fully controlled by him. And because of that, they can now use those agencies to become tools for suppression instead of law enforcement. So right now, the crisis justification now is becoming more imminent. So we really need to watch within these next coming days or weeks them manufacturing or exploiting a national emergency. It could be economic collapse, it could be riots, it could be an external threat that we're not seeing that they're cooking up that could serve as a justification for their emergency powers. Presidents or precedents are already being set for internment. If you don't believe me, look at yesterday's RFK Jr. statements on mental health and the forced institutionalization to provide a legal framework for mass detentions under the guise of public safety. Immigration detention policies and existing privatized prison infrastructure is being rapidly expanded right now for the new internment programs. So this kind of did shape our timeline a little bit different. And I want to go over those. It kind of kicked them up a little bit, like the doomsday clock being moved up a little. This has as well. In the next 1 to 2 weeks, we are going to see an immediate crackdown. He is going to further purge the agencies and dismiss of any remaining opposition in the government. He is going to mobilize the mobilization of federalized law enforcement to be used specifically for executive emergency powers. He is going to introduce laws restricting public dissent and expanded surveillance. And we are already seeing that within the Department of Homeland Security with Kristi Noem. She has told all employees that in order to find whoever has been leaking information, all employees are subjected to now a polygraph test. So that is, right there, expanding that surveillance and giving you that fear. So week 3 to 6, we're going to start to see initial roundups, federal control measures. Right now, we see a fight with OAC going on, okay? And that is going to deem someone like her a political enemy. They're going to deem activists political enemies, journalists, and anybody that opposes what is going on. They are going to begin detaining them under various justifications, such as national security, public safety, sedition, the same things that they have griped about them being persecuted for when they were criminally doing all this stuff, but now want to refocus that and redirect that onto us. Then within in the next 3 to 6 weeks, we are going to see the deployment of federal and emergent military forces under this temporary order. And state and local resistance could become neutralized through economic pressure. And we're already seeing that with our education systems, where if they don't remove everything DEI, they're going to lose their federal funding within, I think they have 8 days left. I mean, so these are the type of economic pressures that they will use. In the next 2 to 3 months, we will begin to see the internment on a mass scale. We will see full-scale detention of targeted groups begin. A national ID or tracking system will become implemented to monitor your compliance. Censorship becomes absolute, and resistance is criminalized under the new wartime style laws. That is how they do this. By month 6, he will have fully consolidated all authoritarian rule, which will give him the right to instill a martial law, mass internment camps, and political re-education or forced labor programs. So at this point, this process is no longer hypothetical. It is in motion. The timeline depends on how much public resistance emerges and how effectively the new regime can execute these plans. If no meaningful resistance is organized within the next few weeks, the full transition to authoritarian state with mass internments would be complete within 6 months. Now, that is a lot to take in, and I want you to stay vigilant. So use your intuitions, use your critical thinking, and stay on top of everything. I want to leave you with something to take away and keep you thinking. Today we are at a turning point, And the question isn't if we are headed towards authoritarianism. It's whether we recognize it and act before it's too late. For those of us that walk a spiritual path, now is the time to stand firm in our belief systems and our power. History has tried to erase us before, but guess what? We're still here. The ancestors still guide us, the spirits still walk beside us, and we will not be silenced. This is a scary time for us right now, and as we move forward, I just ask that if you are feeling overwhelmed by this, reach out, let's have a discussion, and let me help guide you. Let me help you find your way through this chaos. And as I pull the Nine of Cups, know that as long as you trust in the universe, everything will turn out well in the end. We just have to get through this. Blessed be, sisters. Thank you for joining. Aho, Ashe-o, and so mote it be. I ask that you have a wonderful day amidst all of this craziness. Be mindful. Keep your eyes open. And don't let them catch you slipping. Until next time, on Friday, I should have up our next episode, and we're going to talk about reclaiming our power, hoodoo, resistance, spiritual warfare, all that good stuff, right? And we're going to get into that one on Friday. Thank you guys for joining me. Have a great day.